Round two.
Okay, I call this January 22nd, 2013 City Council regular meeting to order here at Congregation Or of Shalom. First out, we have an invitation.
Thank you very much. I'm Rabbi Kasorla from the Synagogue Or of Shalom. I'd like to welcome you and extend an invitation to use our premises whenever we can extend that invitation to you and to be of help to you at any time. The synagogue is in Brookhaven, and I live in Brookhaven. So I have a dog in this race, as they say. In addition to that, I'd love to show you the synagogue back there, but I know you have so much on your agenda. I'd like to extend a personal invitation to each and every one of you if you wanted to see the synagogue and to explain or talk about any of the accoutrements there at any time. Please call me and I'll be glad to show you. I wanted to say that you're always welcome at our synagogue also for another reason. We have something called Jewish time. Jewish time is always about a half hour late. You're not there yet. I should say we are actually a little bit later. We usually start services at 8:37 in the morning on Saturday and Shabbat. People come by around 10. So you're actually pretty early. But again, thank you all very much for coming. A word about the synagogue. The synagogue, or at least the synagogue, was established in 1914. It came about from a cooperation between two synagogues. One was named, since I wasn't around then, hold on. One was named Or HaChaim, Light of Life, and one was named Ahavat Shalom. Therefore, the synagogue here is called Or V'Shalom, Light and Peace. And it was established in 1914. Most of the Jews that came then were from the island of Rhodes and also Turkey. Hence, this is a Sephardic congregation. The majority of Jews in the world, at least in the United States of America, North America, are of Ashkenazic descent from Germany, Poland, Russia. But the descendants of this synagogue, and myself as well, we come from Spain, the Mediterranean, Morocco, Persia, India, and like Heinz ketchup, 57 other varieties, at least, among as well as Ashkenazim as well. And there's a distinctive difference between the Sephardic and Ashkenazic service, which is very unique and which you'll really have to see at another time in action. But I wanted just to say a few words by way of an invocation. It's really a prayer, and to bless the work of your hands, Mr. Mayor, and dear council members, and again to thank you for coming, and to bless these meetings and the machinations, the results that will come from these very important meetings. It's a prayer to God. We can feel thy fellowship at its best, O Lord, when we try to reach thy presence, when we strive to sense thy sacredness, when we seek the bond which binds us to thee. Thou hast given us this life. Thou hast provided us with a universe of challenge and a world of work wherein we find fulfillment for our span of years. Thou hast brought us into a civilizing faith, enriched by a tradition of revelation and of wisdom, many faiths. Thou hast bestowed upon us a legacy of natural beauty and of man-made art. Can we not look upon all these treasures of the Spirit and of experience as though they are thy hand, O God, offered to us as the opening expression of companionship for them in all their magnificence and comfort? We are thankful. And to indicate the depths of our gratefulness for the bounty of thy fellowship, we will walk with thee as Elijah did, and we will offer thee the best that we have within us. And so by doing, we will strive to fulfill the prophecy of thy servant, Jeremiah, who taught us in thy name, and ye shall seek me and find me when ye shall search for me with all your heart. O God, Lord and Maker, we thank thee for this city of Brookhaven. We thank thee for this beautiful city of Atlanta and our state of Georgia. And we thank thee for the wonderful individuals that come here tonight and who work for a better today and a better tomorrow. God bless each and every one of you. Amen.
Sure.
Okay.
Councilmember Gebbia, this is in his district, District 4. He'd like to make a comment just for a moment.
1 minute, and let the clerk collect herself. She's been lost for...
Maybe it'd be a good time while you're doing the comments.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah, this is a kind of like a unique moment. I want to welcome everybody to the 4th District. So as we move around the districts and have our different meetings, this is really a good opportunity to really show the diversity we have as a city. This congregation, or V Shalom, is kind of like a hidden jewel in our community. If you ever come here when there's a festivity going on, it's amazing the participation, the impact they have on the community. And I think it's a great opportunity for council to have a meeting here and just further expose to our fellow citizens in Brookhaven who we really are, the diversity we have. And we're going to be doing more of this. So, Rabbi, thank you very much. You and your wife were very cordial to me when I knocked on your door by accident one day.
What on a Saturday?
It was.
We'd love for you to come in and eat, but...
I'll come back, I promise you for that.
We will, yeah.
But thank you very much for your hospitality. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I would like to add to that being a history buff, it's great to hear that this synagogue is almost 100 years old, and just to feel the history through your prayer and having studied, raised in a parochial school and studied so much Old Testament, it's so interesting and a good feeling to hear those words from you. So thank you again. It's a beautiful place, and thank you for having us.
Please come again.
We will, absolutely we will. Okay, roll call.
Yes, Councilmember Rebecca Chase Williams. Here. Councilmember Jim Iyer.
Here.
Councilmember Bates Madison.
Here.
And Councilmember Joe Gebbia.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. All rise to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I've already given my opening remarks. The clerk, if you want to talk about what your minutes are ready and what we can...
Yes, the December 20th minutes and the 28th minutes are ready for approval. The December 21st minutes were approved at the January 8th meeting.
All right.
And then January 8th, those minutes are still being compiled. So we just need to vote on the 20th and 28th.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move we approve the 20th and 28th minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any conversation or comment?
I have a question. We were sent minutes last night for the 28th, and I realized, excuse me, for the 21st. I realized those have already been approved. And going through those minutes, I'm not sure which draft they were. There were some mistakes in there that, and I don't know how we go back and reapprove something that.
When I glanced at the minutes in the January 8th packet, they looked like they had been corrected. Evidently, those got sent by the interim, maybe another draft. So I will compare, and if there is still something not quite right, we'll just place them on another agenda and vote on them again.
Okay.
But I believe they were corrected. That was in that packet that night, but the ones you received earlier. There's just been some confusion about rounding up everything in the different directions. So.
2 points that you want to look at in that 21st. I don't know, is that the appropriate time, or should I talk
I saw
about
your
that?
email.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think a couple of
We'll verify any concerns that you have, and we'll make sure that
we'll check the tape and we'll make sure that they're appropriately
Okay.
presented.
Thank you.
Who was it in reference to this here, action 2? Was this one left off low down here as far as
No, Low, this is community development. Low is not, they were approved in another, yeah, no, this is community development. Low is public works.
Gotcha.
Okay, no, it was a couple others.
Any more
We had
discussion?
Councilmember Bates in one of them, so that was.
Any other discussion? All right. All in favor of adopting the minutes from the 20th and the 28th, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Madam Clerk, please enter that. Public comment. This is to address old or new business on this agenda only. Are there any public comments? All right. Public comment section is closed. There's no consent agenda. Announcements. That we're having a town hall this Thursday, the 24th at 7:30 at Marist High School. And JD, where's the exact location of this?
Woodruff Auditorium. I think it's the only auditorium they have, is the Woodruff Auditorium.
It's the first building on your left as
Yep.
you come on campus.
I or a volunteer, depending on how cold it is, will be posted to direct people to the right spot. So we'll get them, it's that first building on the left, we'll have people directly where you need to go.
Also for District 2, I'm having a town hall meeting also tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at the Briarwood Rec Center. They're on Briarwood Way.
Okay. And any more details about the town hall, JD?
The town hall will include, obviously, presentations and information from mayor and council, as well as the various departments in the city of Brookhaven. Essentially, the town hall is built to give some very brief presentations by mayor, council, and the departments, and it's really designed for citizens to provide feedback and, or more importantly, get questions answered from those who are running the city on a day-to-day basis and who are setting policy for the city.
Okay. All right, any more announcements? The deadline and the dates for variances?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, as you are aware, the moratorium has been lifted for the city of Brookhaven and also for DeKalb County simultaneously. And what we have found in our gathering of applications, requests, permitting, that there were a few cases that were filed prior to the moratorium by DeKalb and that were working their way through the system for cases to be heard by the Zoning Board of Appeals and even the Board of Commissioners. There was a conveyance of right-of-way that was being considered. There was also a variance on a piece of property that includes multiple variances on the same site. As a result, when those cases reached their respective boards in the county said they no longer had jurisdiction to review and consider or decide. So as a result, they sent those cases to us. And since there is not yet a Brookhaven Zoning Board of Appeals created, on the advice of the city attorney, you're it. What we're working on right now is getting those cases. They already are in the planning department. We're getting ready to advertise and prepare a planning analysis to be able to present to you. So what we would like to do with your approval is to give you some dates so that we can sound into the record deadline dates for the submittal of these variance applications, any that we may not know about yet that can still be presented to the planning department. And we're looking at 2 different meetings, and we think by the time we get through these 2 different meetings, which are your scheduled council meeting dates, that it's my hope that we will have a Zoning Board of Appeals already nominated and ratified by the council. But in the short term, we're looking for your next meeting of February the 12th to be your first hearing for Zoning Board of Appeals, and we're planning a separate agenda for that. And the deadline date to file applications because of advertisement requirements under the Zoning Procedures Act will be tomorrow, January the 23rd by noon. Now, we do have a couple of those cases, so we are processing those. However, we just received late last week another case that the county released, and as a result, that will need to come to your agenda for February the 26th as a variance, and the deadline date for that And any other cases that try to reach your February 26th hearing date is January the 29th at noon. This will give us time not only to advertise, post the property, and make sure surrounding property owners are notified, and to give staff the appropriate time to prepare the analysis for each of these cases.
All right. Any more announcements? Is that it? Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
are you all affirmative in these deadline dates so that we can post them?
Do we need to vote on that?
So long as the council is confirmed that they're sufficient and appropriate for.
We'll get the communication so that it's on the website, and we'll make sure that the planning department's getting that information out.
Okay. Yes, make sure that the website, and there's no emails and e-news about those dates.
Right. Thank you.
And press releases. Melissa, it's one of that meeting. I want people to know when those things are. Okay.
No, that's tomorrow.
Any reports and presentations? Marie.
Yes, if I may start with the fee schedule. At our last council meeting, Mayor and Council did approve the fee schedule as presented with the directive and understanding that fees would be the same as DeKalb County or better. There was some discussion and questions that came from council members regarding fees associated with shell construction. And I think what part of the issue was that the form that we generated was just not clear enough to fully describe and to separate a shell construction building from, on this chart where it has a new 1 and 2 family residential, because they are absolutely not the same. But just to be able to sound it into the record, if I may, the questions concern the permit fees that would be assigned to a shell construction building only. This is just the shell of the building, which should be the framing, the slab, the roof. If it's metal construction or masonry construction, that would come in, and the contents of the building would be empty, no finished space. There's a chart that the building department uses that calculates valuation and classifies building types. A lot of times the fire marshal uses that too. But the building type and the classification then is listed on this chart, and a national industry standard on what it costs on a per square foot basis is listed. So this is averages throughout the entire country. On that chart, and how we would calculate those fees for a shell building would be based on the valuation according to that chart, and then we would take 80% of that fee or value and multiply that out by our standard formula for a building permit. Now, the questions that were more detailed as we planning department talked about that really related to the trades, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, and what do we do with that, and how does that 15% evaluation get calculated into the shell? And it's almost a cumulative effect, if you will. The developer builder comes in with the shell construction drawings. He doesn't know yet who the tenant's going to be. So his permit is based on the fee of that shell construction only. Following the construction of that, the developer is contacted by a tenant who has an interest to either take all the space or a portion of the space. That's called the finished space. So they would come in, the mechanicals, the plumbers, the electricians, the HVAC people would come in and submit drawings based on that finished space. Again, the planning department and the building department is going to go back to that fee schedule and that chart that gives valuations, and they'll go back to the original valuation of the shell building and then take the mechanical and charge 15% of that 80% fee. Now, when you add all these numbers up, they will never, not ever, equal 100%, because you're charging based on a percentage of the work. This is, in our opinion, a much better way to calculate. This is not exactly like the counties, but we think it's more competitive and more favorable to the directive that you've given us, equal or better. In the county, when a mechanical drawing is submitted, the county bases their permit fee on all the switch plates, all the outlets, all of that. In my, and I'm dating myself, but in my 30 years in this business, I have never once yet seen a set of drawings that have come in and submitted for permit that aren't changed. in the field based on whatever the matters or the issues may be. So as a result, the planning department, I thought it was a very good suggestion that we could just charge a flat-based 15% off of valuation so that they don't have to go around and count switch plates and count outlets and et cetera, depending on what the trade is. Because when they find an extra outlet, that's going to require a revision to the plans, a resubmittal, and then what we end up doing is stopping the progress of a project. So that, I know it was a long explanation, but there was a lot of discussion about it, and I thought it only fair, especially to the building and development community. This is what we mean by when we're talking about the percentages of valuation. Another point of just clarification, not to change numbers in any way, is on the first page where we talk about the fees assigned to rezoning applications, and we divided them by.
I don't think we have this in our packet.
It should be in the back of your packet, and I also emailed it under separate cover Friday evening to you all.
All right. The CBO.
It's exactly the same chart that you're familiar with, and what I'm about to talk to you about is just the wording that we have changed, which describes the same thing but really makes it more clear. And this was a result in conversations with Councilman Iron. I do want to thank him for his patience in our working through this. But this first chart talks about the rezoning fees, and it's based on certain categories of zoning districts. The higher density you seek, the flat fee changes, and this is identically out of the county's books. What caused the confusion was when a zoning case came in that there could be multiple variances, or what is termed in the industry concurrent variances. What that was meaning, but was not clear in this chart, was that these concurrent variances would be attached to that rezoning application. So what we are doing, we've changed that to say the variances are in combination with the rezoning application. So that way, if a rezoning application comes in, they're asking for this zoning district to be changed to this district, and oh, by the way, there are multiple number of variances that we are going to include in this request for rezoning, then there are certain and separate charges for that. So we capture the rezoning application fee, and then we capture these multiple variances. Now, that is not to say further down in the chart how we address variances, and I think that's where the point of clarification was needed. A particular piece of property could come in, request a variance, but is not attached or tied to a rezoning. So there are a set of fees for that, which follow the concurrent variances, but we do make that distinction so that you're not prohibited from filing for a variance if it's a standalone, has no connection to a rezoning. So those are based on $250 plus $50 for any additional variance, and that would be in combination with the rezoning, and then also the same fee as a standalone request. So we've made it clear that these are separate and distinct actions and applications. Now, the one question that I'd like to present to the mayor and council for your consideration, which was not on this chart, and that was where you get into the instance of variances that occur after the fact. A permit is issued, and before a CO is issued on the property, the inspector on site discovers that there are multiple variances, or there might just be one variance. What we are recommending that if we discover such variance, that if any work has been performed prior to the issuance of a permit or permission of that variance, that we double the filing fee. This is to stop any
The filing fee of the variance? Was it like $300 now?
So it'd be $500 instead of $250. So that way it stops sometimes we have habitual violators, and it's easier to ask for forgiveness than to tear something down. And so and this is very consistent with other jurisdictions in the metro area.
Now, are these typically intentional, or they just didn't do it according to plan?
Well, there's two separate issues. One is they added something and it wasn't part of the permit. We've got one that we'll see where they built a retaining wall and it didn't show up anywhere in the drawing.
Yeah.
The other one is where the builder screwed up and put the house in the wrong place, and he needs a variance because he's encroaching. I almost think we need to separate that. You've got two issues. One is a development issue where he added something after the fact that was not on the permit drawing, and needs a variance. The other is where he didn't build it according to the permit drawing and needs a variance.
Well, wouldn't they just both be doubled, or why would we need to separate it? I mean, when that instance
Well-
would be 500 and the other instance would be 500, right? Is that what we're saying?
If the-
That's what I'm
yeah.
recommending, that there be no difference, that,
Okay.
you know, if it's after the fact and it's done, that, I think it gets cleaner for the planning department, then they're not trying to figure out, well, did they do it intentionally, or was this
Yeah.
a misstep on their part, or did they have the concrete truck there and they just said, go ahead? You know, so,
Also, on the variances, I think we need to have a separate lesser fee for an administrative variance. I mean, if somebody is granted, for instance, the CAB allows a 10% reduction in setbacks administratively, which is just signing off on paper versus a full variance, which has to go to the board hearing. I think we need to cut the administrative variance possibly in half, or some lesser amounts. You know,
I'm going to leave that up to the mayor and council to
What is it,
decide.
250 as well?
It would be 250 as well, because it still requires the same amount of time, albeit, you know, it doesn't have to be prepared in
Yes.
the
They're not-
depth that it would go to a board. But I will say this, my expectation is, if it's an administrative variance, there needs to be a file of record that states by the planning department what the cause was, what the cure is, and how that does not, you know, cause any diminution in value or development activity. I mean, there's case law on that cites specific reasons that the zoning board of appeals needs to use too, as to why you grant a variance. So I would still want there to be those
Checklist followed,
steps
right.
to go through, so that if there's a disgruntled property owner that's not happy about that administrative variance, I want it to be more than just, well, it really wasn't a problem. Now, Mr. Iyer is correct. It's not going to require the full packet of
They don't
materials.
always grant administrative variances, though, right?
Excuse me?
They don't always, it's not a
No,
matter of
there's
right.
just because you're within the margin of an administrative variance, you know, the
You just
planning
don't go
director
forward
has the
with ZBA.
prerogative to say, no, I'm not going to react on this, I'm not going to decide on this, and I'm going to send it to the
Right.
zoning board of appeals.
For instance, one of the most common one is staff has the opportunity to grant administrative variance for up to 10% reduction in
Right.
setback.
Right,
Take it from 10 feet to 9 feet.
right.
You know, that's something that happens a lot. It happens, you know, it's very common in Linwood Park and some of those areas where we have non-conforming lots that, you know, and in the majority of the time, there's a form, they fill out the form, they put it in the file, and off it goes. If it's a full variance, and Rebecca's seen the packages that come through, I mean, the staff puts together a detailed analysis, looks at the property, posted property, et cetera, so there's a lot more work involved. But, you know, the administrative variances are very limited and very, very specific in their, in what they're allowed to do, so.
Are you hearing some disgruntled folks who said we're tired of paying that $250 for the administrative variance?
No, I'm just trying to nip it in the bud. You know, it's.
Well, we can discuss that.
Okay.
It's, we'll put that on.
I think, you know, either way, which way you go is fine with us. Just be assured that,
You think doubling the fine on those things is enough? You think it should be more? I mean,
well, I've seen other jurisdictions, you know, again, it's a deterrent for the habitual violators. They're not, you know, the majority of your developers and builders do not go to a site saying, how in the world can I figure out a way to
Right.
vary everything?
There's some that do.
They're-
Yeah,
yes. Fulton County had a case, I think it was about 25 years ago, and they had a habitual builder that did it, and he finally came in with another variance on an encroachment on the setback, and the zoning board of appeals said, you're gonna have to cut a hole in the wall there, so you can back out of the encroachment. So they didn't give it to him, because he was there every other month. So he got the message, and he never had to go back to the zoning board of appeals. But, you know, Mr. Iyer's point is correct.
First time.
It's not a lot of work, but I'm going to tell you,
Second
though,
time.
that there will be a file and there will be backup documentation as to why the planning director is signing off on a variance. Because it does happen, it may be within that range.
Well, why not establish an habitual offender rule? If you're coming back and you're one of these few people, you say 4 or 5 times, whatever it happens to be,
Twice.
or whatever, you know.
The same baseball.
No walks on this.
Yeah.
Set the limit, and then come back and do what you're suggesting. You say, you know, we're really serious about this, and make those fines meaningful. But if it's occasional like this, which I think the majority of the people probably fall under, that's fair.
Let's do this. I think the city manager suggested that in 90 days,
Yes.
she was going to come back with a sort of summary of our permitting activity. Let's see where we are with
Okay, so we can see
administrative
him. Okay.
versus others, and we'll figure out then.
Okay.
A couple other comments. Are you?
I'm done.
Rebecca's got a comment.
I would just add that having sat on the Board of Zoning Appeals, this is quite common for a builder to come in and really ask for forgiveness that he didn't follow the site plan or his blueprint correctly. So I'd be inclined to be kind of tough on these people. I think one time is too many, you know,
Yeah.
and sometimes, you know, we would hector them and lecture them. I mean, can't you read a site plan? But the fact is that they're asking for an exception to the code. And they often come back again because I think
Well, and
it's easier to ask for forgiveness.
Absolutely.
Than to come back
The
to
danger
right.
is, you know, with each variance that's granted, and the attorney can speak better to this than I can, is that you set a precedent. You set an expectation for the next builder.
Well,
And
I
you
will
wanna
tell
be
you, then
careful
everybody
of
else
that.
in that neighborhood comes in and says, well, they, you know,
They've got it. All they do is they
So then you
want-
set a precedent and now everybody's out.
Exactly, and that's why, when considering a variance and granting a variance, it has to be very structured. It can't be an economic hardship. It can't be, well, gee, I was busy that day and I didn't take care of business as I should have. It really should be a physical constraint or a literal interpretation of the zoning code creates the hardship itself. You know, those are things that really constitute a variance. Just to say, well, I didn't feel like it, or I knew that I was going to have to do this, but I was in a hurry, and I thought, well, I'll just build it and I'll explain later. You know, creates more of a problem for the next property and for the next case the ZBA has to hear. So, but I'm happy to add this to the list when we come back. I already have the date in my office. It's April the 18th. That's the cutoff date. So the planning department's already, you know, watching all of that as far as each case and how much time it's taking them.
Jim, did you say there were a couple?
Yeah, a couple others. You know, we talked about the first and second generation tenant improvement space, one being at 100%, the other
Yes.
being at 50%.
Yes. Right.
Also, under other fees, we have, there's a note that DeKalb County fees apply. Even if it's as an exhibit or an attachment, I'd like to include those fees on this. So
The
that
actual
people-
fee number.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that
the
people,
number.
and even if you just print the DeKalb County schedule
Yes.
and circle those that apply, so that people don't have to look for 2 or 3 sources, we have it together. And then also, we talked about, and you may have mentioned this, the 2 times the fee for starting without a permit or without a variance.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Double the fee.
And I think that was it. Thank you. And I appreciate your patience and your perseverance. We did have a long discussion this afternoon, and we got into practical versus procedural. But the bottom line is we're going to come back in 90 days, keep track of what's going on, come back in 90 days and see where we are. And also, you know, once we get a builders council up and running, we'll look to them for some insight on how some of these fees apply and how we can more streamline this process also.
Well, I already like our first step in kind of cleaning up and simplifying this fee structure. I mean, in renovations I've had, I know that, you know, they were going around counting switches
Yes.
and that sort of thing, and it's problematic.
Okay. Bill Riley, current status of intergovernmental agreement with DeKalb County.
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to meet again tomorrow. That's the biggest thing. We're going to meet again tomorrow. We've prepared 3 proposed IGAs, and they're working on the other ones, and we'll meet with them tomorrow on those. They're not going to be ready on the elections IGA. They're still working on that one. And I don't think they're going to be actually ready on the tax commissioner's IGA either. They have some ideas. They're having to work internally with the tax commissioner on how that money's going to flow. But I'll leave that to DeKalb County to figure that out.
And that's for collecting our revenues too?
It is.
And that, that's something there are companies that do that though as well, aren't there?
There are. And those are things that when we get as we keep moving along, those are the kinds of things that your finance manager will look at
Right.
and bring to you and give you different offers to do that. And
Will you let them know when the negotiations are that we're considering? Are there other options out there?
We'll be happy to bring that up later after we
Yeah.
get everything we want
Okay,
first.
okay.
Yeah.
let me get them to sign off. But no, I think, it's, at this point in time, I don't think it's a bad deal for us.
Okay.
Right now. And, but, that's one of those things that as you mature and your different departments mature, they look at different ways to do the business and bring you things that they think will enhance and make the work go better or save money for both.
Any discussion with the, on the sanitation issue?
The sanitation we have prepared, and that is as is today. So we've locked in the way we are today because they hadn't made any other decisions. I would anticipate that when they do make a decision, that they will come and they will offer the various cities either twice a week or once a week. They're not going to go neighborhood by neighborhood or street by street on that. But I think that it'll be whenever they do it, it will go to all the cities at one time, and you'll be given two different proposals that you would vet, you make the decision, and they'd want to amend the IGA in that format at that point.
Marie?
Prices.
Two different price points.
So it's not too early to talk about that at all?
Pardon me?
It's not too early to talk about this?
No, absolutely not.
So basically, there's a proposal floating out there that's whereby DeKalb County is going to raise everybody's, in the entire county, cities included, their sanitation rates for garbage pickup.
Right.
And whatever else. So they're proposing, you can pay the same rate that you're paying right now, but you're going to get half the service, basically. That's a proposal. I don't know if that's what they're going to propose or not, but that's something we've heard.
25% less.
25.
You get 4 pickups now, you'll get 3.
But you get 2 regular garbage
Yeah.
pickups and you get 1.
Yeah.
Not,
You still get yard and recycle.
right, okay.
Yeah, I'm
so,
sorry.
but the 2 garbage pickups will be sliced to 1, not the yard. The yard stays. Unless we can we switch yard for 2 yard? No, okay, so it's
Great idea.
effectively for most folks, it's going to be, you're going to be getting trash once a week when you're now getting it 2. If you want it twice a week for regular garbage pickup, they're going to raise the fee on that. So basically, it's a fee increase from the county. So the citizens of Brookhaven, if this proposal holds and if there's a proposal made by the county, it's a possibility that we could be deciding as a city whether or not we want to have once a week regular garbage pickup at the same rate or twice a week at an increased rate. So that's something that I want to make sure everybody in the city of Brookhaven knows. That's something we're going to have to be talking about as a city, and I want a lot of input about that, and I want to hear from folks what their opinion is on that prospect.
And the fee difference is currently we're paying $265 for the 4 times, 2 garbage, recycle, and yard. If we stay at that number, it'll be 1, 1, and 1. The increase is to $305, so it's a $40 per year increase, and that's billed on your tax bill. So that's a one-time fee to go to keep the 211 fee.
Right.
So it's a $40 increase to keep the
trash
current rate.
exactly as you have it.
It's a $40 increase
To keep your service exactly as it is.
When is that supposed to go into effect?
We don't know yet. It's all
They haven't
proposed.
passed it
Yeah.
yet.
DeKalb's been having a series of meetings, and I think they have one tomorrow. I believe it's at noon at the Senior Center in Chamblee, across from the MARTA station. If anybody's interested in hearing all the gory details about garbage pickup, and I think they have a couple others. They've had 6 or 8 in the county, and I think the one tomorrow is, if I remember correctly, was the closest to the Brookhaven area, and it's at the Senior Connections there on Peachtree Road across from the Chamblee MARTA station. And you can go and hear about, I believe, this proposal and the whole state of the world of DeKalb garbage collection at this point.
Well, I mean, just from my personal experience on the campaign trail, I know that garbage collection it came up quite a bit. People were happy with the system they have now with the 4 times a week, 2 regular garbage pickups, and I'm happy with that as well, because the prospect of going to 1 regular garbage pickup a week means a lot of stinky trash if you miss that one day, and that kind of it's kind of frightening, but I don't like that prospect. So I want to make sure everybody, Melissa, if you'll put that in can put that in the neighbor as well.
The stinky garbage part?
Yeah, stinky garbage part. That people understand we got a city. We got a city.
Stinky garbage.
Yes,
Jay,
No headline there, Melissa. No headline there.
2 comments if I could on this. One, the implementation of free recycling is a progressive move by the Cabot County Sanitation, which I think encourages diminishing your traditional garbage by recycling. That's a good thing for the city. I think Brookhaven should always be cognizant of being as environmentally friendly as possible. But the second thing that I've talked to the staff, our city staff, about is getting a poll out there. And I think they're in the works of producing a poll that we can get to the citizens of Brookhaven, collect the data from the people and see where people stand on this thing.
Right.
So once we get that data back, I think we'll have a better idea.
Right.
Which way to go.
That poll, town halls, emails, phone calls, anything, council meetings, public comments. I want to hear from everybody what they're, because some people say, oh, no brainer, let's do the twice a week. And then some people say, well, I'm on a fixed income and $40 a year is, we just want to make sure that every point of view is heard on that. We make a decision, an informed decision based on what our residents feel about it. Okay, is that it? Do you have some more?
Well, we're working through everything on there. We've gotten a little bit more granular in some of the other issues, the things that we talked about on a higher level. We've had staff working staff to staff on, and we're going to go back and work on that some more tomorrow, particularly in the cost, how we're going to cost out the lighting for the street lights, those kinds of issues. There will be we've talked with staff about traffic calming and the present costing out on traffic calming, as I think we talked about the other week. If in fact this will be something that we should bring to you at a later time for more discussion on it, to make a decision if you want to continue on that traffic calming program. We have passed the ordinance that provides for it, but if you wish to continue that, we'll have to ratify the resolutions that the county previously had, and that would be something that would come up probably sometimes before we have to start sending things out to the county on tax collections, because there's an assessment for those traffic calming in the various streets, and I believe we have made a count that I think we have maybe around 50 to 60 streets in Brookhaven that would be affected. So at some point, y'all will need to, that'll be something that'll come up for you all to make some policy decisions on.
I think we do need to look into that, what we need to do to continue that, because the fee is relatively small. It's $25 a year, but it does go toward maintenance of and installation of the traffic calming, and it's billed only to the people that request it. So it's sort of a use fee.
It is.
And to the extent we can include that.
If you all make a decision that that's what you want to do, all we'll have to do is I'll have a resolution that ratifies the prior resolution of the county on that, and we can continue on with it at that point in time.
The street lights, do we take those over, and do we pay Georgia Power?
This is part of an ongoing discussion. As we discussed last week, they wanted to do the residential, and they said they would just take up all of it. But as the Public Works folks spoke with Public Works over there, they want to continue to have the residential because right now they're making a little money on it. They don't want to do the street lights on the arterials, and they want to pass those over to us. And they don't want to do the traffic control signals, which I would understand. But in further conversation with the Public Works Department, they informed me that the dollars that are spent on the Georgia Power lights on the arterials, as well as for the traffic signals in unincorporated DeKalb County, come out of the general fund. And as such, since it doesn't come out of a special service district fund, on tomorrow we'll be taking a position that if they're going to keep the residential, we'll take the residential. But absent them putting all the unincorporated lights into a special service district fund, to have the folks in unincorporated DeKalb pay for it, then they should continue to pay for our arterials and pay for our traffic signals too, since our citizens are citizens of the county and they're paying into the general fund for those services. So that'll be our position on tomorrow as we continue to delve into it. And I think that at the high level, we're not in disagreement to begin with, but once you get down to the people who do the budgets, they start looking at the different issues, and we'll just address that again. So it'll be an ongoing discussion on that. I think we'll be getting our first proposal from them on police services on tomorrow, and we'll start on an analysis of that after we get that first proposal. So we had a little glitch on Friday. The fire marshal said without an IGA they couldn't look at plans, but after a couple of phone calls to the chief assistant county attorney and to the fire marshal, he was most gracious. He worked with us. They determined that wasn't necessary because they had a continuing obligation under the transition, and they worked it out, and it's going smoothly. So those are just some of those little bumps in the road you get when you try to push the process through the first time. But I want to report that DeKalb County was very accommodating and worked hard to solve the problem, and the problem got immediately solved. So I thought that was a good sign as we keep working together to get to how we're going to transition these services.
Bill, I just had a question on the street lights. So the line item that is on your property tax bill for street lights, does that just cover the residential?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so what they're talking about that comes out of the general fund are major roads?
Right, the arterials.
If we're asked to take those over, could we have the same line item because right now the commercial properties are not charged a streetlight fee. Can that be added to?
If we take over the residential, it would be at the same. We would again ratify the same resolutions that the county had in charging that fee, and we just adopt the program. The fees would remain the same. It wouldn't change at all.
I guess my question is, can that program be expanded to include also the commercial properties? Because right now that front footage fee is only being charged to residential properties.
We could look at that. We surely could look at it.
And the reason I ask is I had a discussion with the captain about 6 months ago about this, and that was the complaint was, and there seemed to be that difference, that it is a residential fee, but it's not being charged to commercial properties. And clearly there's street lights in front of commercial properties. It may be more of a classification of the street rather than the classification of the property. I don't know. Is it on a subdivision street? I mean, it's a policy issue of where you put it. And I think the answer is we'll certainly take a look at the potential for doing that. And the other option is that if they don't want to participate, then the Georgia Power would cut power off to it. It would no longer have a light. So but we'll look at that too.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
Yes, sir.
All right. Staff City Manager search. Slavin and Marie Garrett.
Yes, Mayor, Council. Slavin has sent over a number of resumes to our HR Director, Rick Stone. He's working right now on 5 of them. He's already conducted 2 phone interviews. He's going to be following back. He has 2 more interviews scheduled later this week. And after he finishes those, Mr. Mayor will be getting those to you. I'll take a look at them and then get them to you to see if
Can we schedule something from the 2 that he's already done if he wants to recommend?
Yes,
so instead of waiting until the end of the week?
Right, we can absolutely do that. I think what he wanted to do was just look at the other 2 and then rank them so that he could not waste any of your time, but maybe bring in the top 3 that he has reviewed.
Okay.
Now he has a number of them, and he's taken the first 5 right now, so that's what he's working on now. But yes, we can at least get those first 2 over to you right away.
All right, thank you. Is there a time frame? I mean, I'd like to wrap that.
Well, we have told Slavin that we have a sense of urgency and we want to move as quickly as possible. And Rick's been doing a great job. When he gets them, he's immediately vetting them and then calling.
Okay.
So.
All right. Any old business? Yes. We have some. Agenda item 1.
If you like, I'll go for it.
Sure.
This-
All right.
Mayor and council, this is old business number 1. It's 02-013-0154. This is consideration and approval of an ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 22 solid waste for the Code of Ordinances for the city of Brookhaven. You've already approved all this on a one-read ordinance, and we had a first read previously. This is the same ordinance you approved on the one read.
All right, thank you.
So if you would just take a motion in a second.
Is there a motion?
Yes, ma'am. I move that we approve ordinance 2013-01-54, consideration and approval for ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 22 solid waste for Code of Ordinances for the city of Brookhaven.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor of adopting the, is it a resolution? Ordinance. Please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Madam Clerk, please enter the minutes as passed. Number 2.
Mayor and council, 02-13-0155 is consideration and approval of an ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 25 water, sewer, and sewage disposal for the Code of Ordinances for the city of Brookhaven. Again, Mayor and council, you've already approved this as a one-read ordinance. We've done a first read on it as a two-read ordinance, and this would simply be the approval of the same ordinance as a two-read.
All right. There's a motion on the table.
I'll move to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the ordinance, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, you didn't read it? You didn't read it? Sorry.
I move to adopt ordinance 2013-01-55. Consideration and approval of an ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 25 water, sewer, and sewer disposal for Code of Ordinances for the city of Brookhaven.
Second.
All right. Discussion? All in favor of adopting the ordinance in Joe's motion, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, Madam Clerk, please enter that to the minutes. Number 3.
Mayor and council, number 3 is 02-013-0158. This is consideration and approval of an ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 7 buildings and building regulations for Code of Ordinances of the city of Brookhaven. Again, Mayor and council, you've already approved this as a one-read ordinance. This is the second read on the two-read ordinance. It's the same ordinance.
Okay, is there a motion on the table?
I'll move that we approve ordinance 2013-01-58, an ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 7 for buildings and building regulations for the Code of Ordinances for the city of Brookhaven.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor of adopting the ordinance, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Madam Clerk, please enter the minutes as passed. Number 4.
Mayor and council, number 4 is 02-013-0159. This is consideration and approval of an ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 17 motor vehicles and traffic for the Code of Ordinances for the city of Brookhaven. This is the same ordinance that you approved as a one-read ordinance, and you've already had a first read on this previously.
Okay, is there a motion on the table?
I move we adopt ordinance 2013-01-59, approval of an ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 17, motor vehicles and traffic for the Code of Ordinances for the city of Brookhaven.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor of adopting the ordinance, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Madam Clerk, please enter the minutes that item 4 is passed. Number 5.
Mayor and council, number 5 in old business is 02-013-0160. This consideration and approval of an ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 23, streets and sidewalks for the Code of Ordinances for the city of Brookhaven. Again, Mayor and council, this is an ordinance you approved as a one read, and this is the second read the same ordinance we approved as a one read.
Is there a motion?
I move we adopt ordinance 2013-01-60, approval of an ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 23, streets and sidewalks for the Code of Ordinances for the city of Brookhaven.
I will second.
Any discussion? All in favor of adopting the ordinance, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Madam Clerk, please enter into the minutes that item 5 is passed. New business.
If I may take the first one, Mayor and council. New business on number 1 is resolution 2013-0107. This is consideration and approval of a resolution to establish the 2013 election qualifying fees. The fees were calculated according to state law, and you have to adopt these fees for if you want anybody to be running for election or re-election in next year. And it needs to be done before the end of the month, so that's why it's on for tonight.
All right. Is there a motion? No,
Jim and I suggested that we both boycott that $360 fee for this year.
The fees are too high.
This shouldn't come from this side of the table, I think.
Yeah.
I move that we have moved to approve the resolution 2013-01-07, consideration and approval for a resolution to establish the 2013 election qualifying sheet.
Second?
Well, I was going to do it just so we wouldn't have any more feelings.
Sorry.
Take it, Rebecca. It's
All
yours.
right. Any discussion?
So it remains at $360?
Yes,
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a percentage of it.
highway robbery.
All in favor of adopting the resolution, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Madam Clerk, please enter the minutes that this resolution is passed, and that council members from District 2 and 4 have been able to fee themselves.
Duly noted.
Okay, and number 2.
Number 2 is Resolution 2013-0108. It's a consideration approval of resolution